Parents, what's something your kids do that hurts your feelings? Story 1. I don't know if this happens all over the country, but in the South, they have these father daughter dances in elementary school. I always thought they were ridiculous and a little creepy, so I had zero interest in ever going to one. But I have daughters, so I know there was a chance I would end up at one of these abominations at some point. I never made my opinion known to my girls, just something I would gripe to my wife about from time to time. My oldest daughter came home one day with a flyer for the daddy daughter dance, and she was pretty pumped to go. I thought to myself, oh great, here we go. But I sucked it up and pretended to be just as enthused as she was to go. I was dreading it, but honestly, I would endure much worse to see my girls happy. A couple of days before the dance, my daughter asked my wife to take her to get a nice dress and shoes. My wife told me later that I really need to take this seriously because it was all she had been talking about for a week. I figured I would go along with it, and if she was going to look great, damn it, so was I. So I went out and bought myself a nice outfit for the affair, complete with shoes and everything. I rarely buy myself anything, so I just knew the gesture of her seeing me wearing new clothes would give her a big kick on the day of. I hid my clothes so they would be surprised. The more excited she got, the more I looked forward to it. Maybe I had judged the dance too harshly, and it's nice to go out and have fun with your daughter. It started to dawn on me, though, that maybe we don't do enough together, and it made me feel like I really need to spend more time bonding with her. I felt like maybe I was kind of a crappy dad, and this dance would be the beginning of turning over a new leaf. I found myself actually excited for this goddamn dance. I couldn't believe it. The day of, I rush home and get all ready, and then I come out and she's dressed super nice and she's beaming when she sees my new outfit. Mom took a bunch of pictures and we were all set for a great time. We arrived at the dance, and I'm looking at all the other dads in jeans and t-shirts, and I'm thinking, ha, my kid must be so proud of her dad. We go into the gym where music is playing and everyone was congregating. I give my daughter a giant hug and say, I'm so happy we came. She says to me, oh, hey, that's my friend over there. I'm going to say hi. My daughter never came back for the rest of the dance. I stood there on the wall watching every other dad in jeans and t-shirt dance with their daughters, and mine never did. She didn't say a word to me, just hung out with her friends. When her friends went dancing with their dads, she just hung out with whoever wasn't at the time. I stood there in my outfit listening to song after song, embarrassed and sad. The longer the dance went on and the more songs meant to be about dads and their daughters, the sadder I got, to the point at the end I was fighting back tears. I stood in the same place for 2 hours because I didn't want to move in case she came looking for me, but she never did. At the end of the night, she told me about how much fun she had with her friends. I tried my best to act like I had fun too. She was completely oblivious to me being a wallflower the whole night that was sad and forgotten. When I got home, I went to my room and locked the door and cried. She had no idea she was hurting me that night, and I kept it that way. It's not the best memory. We talked the next day and she apologized. We hugged it out and everything is okay. She's 15 now, and this happened around 5 or 6 years ago. We have a great relationship, and I fully understand she didn't do it intentionally, and that she was just a kid having a blast that night. I was just caught up in my own feelings. But my second daughter, knowing the story and being sensitive like her father, was glued to my side the entire night when we went to her dance. I actually had to tell her to go have fun. We danced a few times, and then I knelt down to her and told her to go play with her friends and have a good time. That was a much better night. My third daughter's dance will most likely be this year, and I'm looking forward to that one too. Story 2. When my daughter was 5, I let her watch The Lion King. She's a fairly emotional little thing, so we were concerned about how she'd react to the death of the father. So we get to the scene and I'm watching her carefully, but there's no big reaction. This is a kid who cries during some commercials. Anyways, I don't beg the issue and let it roll. Later in the movie, she asks where Simba's dad is, and I think, oh, here we go. I pause the movie and talk with her about how he died in the stampede. Her reaction? What's the big deal? He still has his mom. Oof, ice cold. Story 3. I didn't realize this until my sister started doing it. There are 7 years between us. My mom was a teacher, so when I had homework, it made sense to go to the teacher for help. I never asked my dad because I didn't see the point. My sister starts school and does the same thing with her homework. One night, he says, I can help you with it, and my sister, who was about 7 or 8 at the time, walked past him and said, no thanks, I'll just wait for mom to get home. He looked really upset. I think it was the assumption we thought he was stupid. We didn't, or we didn't want to spend time with him. Not always true. Story 4. One Halloween when my son was like 4, our little nuclear family went to a corn maze for fun. To make things a little more exciting, the proprietors had also set a teepee with a giant pumpkin inside. You were supposed to go into the teepee and make a wish on the pumpkin. So we sent my son in to make a wish, and he says, I wish it was just me and mommy and daddy was at work. My heart shrank in 3 sizes that day. He's 20 now and is still mortified with guilt over saying this. Story 5. I spent thousands of dollars in court to stand up to my ex wife so my son could attend an internship during his senior year. He didn't finish the internship, accused me of never supporting him, and then went to live with his mother after he graduated because he wanted to smoke, forgetting the experience he learned during his internship. Story 6. My teenage son came across some old wedding photos that his dad had put away for him at his office. When his stepmom discovered these photos, she became upset, so my son threw them away to avoid the drama. These photos were about 24 years old. There are no duplicates, and my son doesn't understand why I'm upset that he didn't just bring them to me. Story 7. My 12-year-old son basically ignores me as much as he can. It's puberty and it's all normal, but a year ago I was still his favorite person, and now it's all about his friends, girls, and video games. And I'm the uncoolest person on the planet, apparently. I made him go for a walk with me and the dog the other day just to try to have some conversation, and he said, Why do you make me do these things that make me unhappy? To which I responded, Spending time with you makes you unhappy? And he said, yes. I told him he could go turn around and go back home then, and he did. I cried the whole way to the dog park. Story 8. Last year, my wife spent the whole summer making it as great as she could for our then 6-year-old holidays, theme parks, everything she could. They did loads together, got a phone call at work from my wife, crying and furious. At the end of it all, going back to school, she'd asked what she had enjoyed the most. The day trip to London. The only problem was that was with me, at Easter. Still, it was an absolutely awesome day. Story 9. My 4.5-year-old daughter screams, I hate you and I don't want you as a father anymore, during a tantrum or after I discipline her. She has no idea what she's saying and she doesn't mean it, but it still stings every time. Basically, toddler cussing. Story 10. Every morning as a kid, I was always waking up to the sound of my mom singing. It was her way of, wake up, it's time for school. I sometimes wait beside my door or pretend to sleep just to listen to her more. When I was 10, I was in a bad mood and my mom was singing while driving. I yelled at her, Stop singing, you don't even sound good. She stopped singing after that. Story 11. Context. I share 50-50 custody of my girls, ages 4 and 5. Their mom and I were never married but did live together until they were 2 and 3. We live in a tiny town 2 blocks from one another and get along pretty great. Dad's answer. We want to go to mom's because she's more fun. Mom's answer. We want to go to dad's because we like his house better, was their original home. Both of us answered, why can't you two just live together? Then we wouldn't have to miss mommy or daddy. Story 12. I'm a long-time widower. Me and my son were left alone and used to be really close. After he moved to college, he used to call every day. I lived for that phone call. Gradually, they started decreasing from once on 2 days to once a week. Now he has a girlfriend and rarely talks to me. I sometimes watch his Instagram and feel sad. I wish he would call more. Story 13. I'm a very old dude who usually lurks Reddit. I made an account to comment on this post. I wish I could say I had a lot of influence in the raising of my girls, but that wasn't the way that things turned out. I did a lot of dumb crap, as did my ex-wife. She was in prison for a stint, and I was in and out of prison throughout my daughter's life. My younger 2 daughters were raised by my ex's dad, while my oldest daughter was raised by my dad. Their lives were polar opposites, that are for sure. My ex's family came from money, our family had money and lost it all. We lived in about as much damn poverty as possible, like rock bottom, and it didn't help I wasn't around to contribute much either. I wasn't allowed to see my 2 younger girls much. Their grandpa hated my guts, and I understood that. I didn't understand the way they treated my dad. He was the most hardworking and honest man I ever knew. If something was broken, he was over there at your house with tools to fix it without even needing to ask. Never was late for anything in his life. I remember we had all the girls over once for the 4th of July. We were grilling up some burgers on a brand new grill. Spent more than we should have on this, but we didn't see them all together very often, so it was worth it. A lot of whining on my 2 younger girls' part, though. They'd rather go to McDonald's, we had Mr. Pibb instead of Dr. Pepper, and so on. But what got me was when one of my younger daughters said, we want to go home. Your house is dirty, and oldest daughter doesn't have any good toys. I'm damn glad my dad was almost deaf at that point because hearing that would have broken his heart. My oldest daughter did hear though. She was about 8 at this time, and I'll never forget the look on her face. There wasn't any tears or embarrassment. She just looked blank, staring off into space. There were other stories and moments like those too, too long to write. Eventually, my two younger daughters changed their last names from mine to their grandpa's. They stopped accepting contact from my dad and me. Presents for birthdays and Christmas were returned. I guess the feel good part of the story comes from my oldest. She's an adult now. I knew when she was little that her other grandpa and sisters were bribing her with toys and with their nice house. She would come home and tell my dad or me if I was around. The response I had at that time was, "Is that so? No more, no less." I did get up the courage to ask her why she stayed with her dad instead of going to live with her sisters when she was older. She said to me, "I felt like Papa had nothing else to live for. I wanted to stay because I knew he loved me and needed me around. I loved him too. He was always trying his hardest up until the day he died. I knew even back then that was more honest than the people who gave me new toys and would ask me if I would rather live with them." I feel like I have to point out that my dad lost all of his money because he spent hundreds of thousands trying to save my mom. Diabetic coma. I was in prison at the time and they wouldn't let me out to say goodbye. He spent all the money we had and sold the lake house trying to keep her alive. After she passed, he was a shell of a man. The only time I did see him even remotely smile after that was when he was looking after my oldest. So, what she said hit me pretty deeply, and let me tell you, she's my pride and joy. I wish I could have given her more, but I know my dad made up for it even though there wasn't much to give. She appreciated everything, even as a kid. She's smart as a whip, got a full ride scholarship, taught me how to use the internet and type on the keyboard. She was hit by my dad's death hard too. Harder than me, maybe. But she's strong, pretty. Even though I let her down, she's always been there for me. Through my heart disease, my damn broken hip, I lost my balance and hit my head pretty hard a few years ago, and she flew out here to take care of me. A lot of hell in our lives, but she beat all the odds. My other daughters, well, they would like to pretend I'm not their dad. I know I will get pissed on for saying so, but the feeling is mutual. I feel like given every opportunity, they have managed to squander and waste it. They're entitled brats, the way they treated my daughter and my dad. I know my oldest was trying to get close to them. Crap hit the fan when they came asking what they got out of my dad's will after he died. He had nothing but the house we lived in and the clothes on his back. Gave every damn dime to raise my oldest. They returned every present and letter he ever sent them, and they came asking for handouts? I'd never seen my oldest daughter snap until that moment. Guess she managed to get my temper after all. I know I didn't have much influence in any of my kids' lives. Maybe I have no right to be proud, so I thank my dad who sacrificed everything for my daughter. Thank you for raising her to be a damn good woman. Also, thanks to anyone who wasted the time to read this old guy's ramblings. We miss you, Dad. R.I.P. Story 14. I'm speaking from the kid's side, but sharing it because I was devastated the other day to hear my mom's side. When I was young, my brothers and I would tease my mom's singing voice every time we sang together church, scouting events, whatevs. From our side of things, it was truly done very lightheartedly. I loved singing with my mom. Her crooked voice was part of that love. But a few days ago, I was driving with her. She's in her 70s now. A great song came on the radio that I know she loves, and I started to sing along, asking her to join me. She did a little, but soon stopped. I asked her why she wouldn't sing with me. Because I have a funny voice. Story 15. I cut and colored my hair one time for my birthday. Went from waist length brown hair to shoulder length blonde. Drastic change, but I love the results. My daughter wound up hating it and kept asking why I did it and if couldn't I at least color it back to brown and grow it out. My son liked it and kept saying I looked pretty, but damn, my daughter's intense dislike was really crap on my parade. It still does every time I go for a touch-up. This was about 4 years ago. She's a teen now and has since gotten used to my hairstyle, although she still doesn't like the color. I've been growing it out for the past few months and I plan on changing my color again to shake things up. She's totally fine with it. She's very vocal about her preferences, which we encourage. Story 16. I'm divorced with split custody. My ex has a large extended family that lives nearby and they're always together letting the little cousins all play together. My family is the exact opposite, lives hours away and nobody is young enough to have play dates with. So weekly, my 5-year-old cries when it's time to go to my house because it's not as fun as dad's. I'm on a budget and can't afford to take her out every week to the zoo or movies. Every single dollar is budgeted. It makes me cry often when I see how excited she is to go to his house because mine is boring. I just want her to know that I'm trying. Story 17. When I drop them off at a party or day camp and I go to say bye, they've already gone off with friends. Kids are getting older now, so it's not cool to kiss or hug dad goodbye. But man, it stings, and I sure don't want to embarrass them, so I just sadly walk back to my car alone. Story 18. It hurts my feelings that he speaks so highly about his dad. Hear me out. God bless my 7-year old, and I feel so bad even saying this, but his dad hasn't called him since the day after his birthday back in May. He called 3 times so far this year and hasn't seen him since February. His dad also stopped giving me money for our son 2 years ago. I'm all alone and work full time, but I don't miss a beat. I get little sleep and haven't done anything for myself in a very long time. From sunup to sundown, it's nonstop work. And I don't mind being a mom. I'm lucky I have a work ethic and I love raising my little family. His dad hasn't had a job or a cell phone in 2 years, and he's currently squatting in our mutual friend's house, refusing to leave. He owes me, my dad, his own mom, my son's grandma, and our mutual friends so much money, it's ridiculous. And when he was in our son's life, he would just make my job so hard. He'd be the, don't worry, buddy, your mom is a witch, you did nothing wrong, let's go play video games guy whenever I tried to parent, causing my son to not take me seriously. My son goes to therapy now and is in the Big Brother program, and I've been told by teachers, friends, and therapists that my son is suffering from having a toxic male role model, and now he's suffering from abandonment by that toxic male role model. My son deserves so much better, yet he still thinks the sun shines out of his dad's eye. He brings up his dad almost every day. Mom, dad's hair is so cool, right? Yeah, buddy. He's constantly talking about his dad being this great guy. He even excuses his dad for not calling him for months by saying, he's just sick, it's okay, I'm not mad at him. But I am so mad for my son that it is slowly killing me. I called his dad in June, and when he answered, I said, why haven't you called your son? He asks about you every day. And he yelled, because he's stupid, and then hung up on me. Now, I would never do something like that. I can't go a day without seeing my son, let alone talking to him. It hurts me how much my son loves his can't do wrong dad, and it just breaks my heart every day. Here I am, full-time job, paying rent for a 2-bedroom in a nice city so he can go to a good school and can have his own room, feeding and walking his dog and a bearded dragon that he wanted, buying him Hanukkah and Christmas presents every year to compensate, putting a tree in my house with all the fixings because I'm Jewish but my son loves celebrating Christmas with his dad. I even keep in touch with his family so that my son doesn't lose touch with them, and I arrange get togethers with his family. I constantly try to distract him from his dad's disappearance. While I don't expect to get a thank you or praise, it sucks to have to sit through my 7-year-old tell me what games he plays with his dad and how cool his dad is and how much he loves him. I know one day he'll figure it out, but in the meantime, it's just really difficult for me to hear it every day. I cry a lot for him. Please don't turn out to be like your dad. I cry in private. Story 19. There was one time that I was playing Xbox with my friends. My dad wanted to play catch, and I told him no, I'm busy playing Xbox. I went to the bathroom a little later and walked by his office towards the bathroom. My dad was inside, holding his baseball glove and mine, tears silently running down his face. I never said no again, ever, to my dad after that day. Story 20. I have a daughter. She's 12. We've always been pretty close, and in most ways, we still are. We've always done everything together, but she's at that age now where friends, etc., are becoming more important. I'll bring up something we can do, like watching a movie that I think she'll like. 5 minutes in, she'll get a message from a friend, light up, and just disappear for the rest of the movie. Now, I get it. I'm sure I was like that too. I'm not going to freak out about it or anything, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt my feelings a little now and then. Dad just wants to keep dadding. Story 21. My 5-year-old daughter said she wanted a new mommy because I don't have a pretty face. She didn't realize it would be hurtful, I guess. It's going to be a big shock to her the day she learns about genetic inheritance.